Hey, what's going on, crew? Welcome to another episode of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Durs and Jeff coming to you from the CrossFit Games, Madison, Wisconsin. And we are honored today to have Marine Captain Mike Burgener, the coach of coaches, the founder, the owner, the developer of Mike's Gym out in San Diego, California. Just by chance bumped into you at the Hold the Standard Summit with Logan, and just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So impromptu. This is usually something that we schedule out weeks, maybe even months in advance. So the fact that you're even here on the mic with us is really, really awesome.
Well, thank you. That's an honor to be here. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of gave a very brief resume for you. For everybody who doesn't know who you are, kind of give us the cliff notes of your journey to where you're at today.
Well, I don't even know where to start, but I grew up in southern Illinois, Marion, Illinois, and my dad was a dairyman, farmer, milk farmer, and dairy farmer, and a coal miner at the same time. Mm-hmm. And, I went to high school at Marion and was a little All-American football player in high school, so I got a scholarship to play football at Notre Dame.
There you go.
And from there, from Notre Dame, it was, the Marine Corps and the journey into Olympic-style weightlifting while I was at Notre Dame with a priest by the name of Father Lang, who my coach at Notre Dame was Ara Parsegian. And I went in as a defensive back weighing 165 pounds. And at that time I was 5'10 and a half, 5'11", and now I'm like 5'8 and a half. All the crushing blows and old age, the geezerhood has caught up with me. But nevertheless, Parsegian wanted me to gain some weight, and so he sent me down to a weight room with Father Lang. And, fell in love with Olympic-style weightlifting.
Yeah.
And back then it was a clean and press, the snatch, and the clean and jerk. It was 3 lifts.
Okay.
And, after the first year in the weight room, I came out weighing 182, and my speed increased.
Wow.
So I was pretty addicted to the weightlifting.
Sure,
So, my journey from there became, I got a master's degree at the University of Kentucky, and, was a strength coach there for a little bit. And I fell in love with the competing, and then eventually into coaching. And, so that's basically it in a nutshell. And then in 2005 or 6, I think it was, Coach Glassman called USA Weightlifting and asked if I would hold a course for him and his athletes, which included Nicole Carroll and Annie Sakamoto and Greg Amundsen and those guys. And
we saw Annie last night.
Yeah. Well, he brought 15, 20 athletes down to my high school.
Okay.
And we ended up giving them a USA Weightlifting Club coaches course, which I was leading at the time. And he loved it. And then he ended up doing a course out in, I think, Golden, Colorado, and he did it for these first responders, firefighters. He also did it for Marines and Navy SEALs, and he had several of us. They had a kettlebell guy. They asked me if I'd come out and do the Olympic weightlifting portion of it, and so we did that. And this is even before CrossFit affiliation was even a thought process, because Coach really wanted to do the CrossFit mentality with the first responders, He wanted the military, firefighters, police officers, and that sort of thing. And so after he saw what this guy did, this guy had 50 athletes, I guess, and he charged them $500. And this guy made $25,000, and he paid Glassman $8,000. And so Glassman, I could see his face. It was like, oh my God, this will never happen again. So we all left and went back. I went back to San Diego, and Coach went back to Santa Cruz. And a week later, he calls me up and he says, "We're going to start doing seminars once a month. We're going to charge $1,000, and we're going to have 60 in a class." And he says, "Will you be part of it?" I said, "Hell yeah." So I would ride my motorcycle up to Santa Cruz once a month, and I'd give my 3-hour portion of CrossFit, of weightlifting, which was the burgener warm-up and the skill transfer exercises, and a high hang snatch, a hang snatch, and a floor snatch with PVC pipe. And Coach paid me very, very well. And after 1 year, he says we're going to reduce the classes to 2 days. And so we're going to drop the SMEs, which is a subject matter expert. Mine was Olympic weightlifting. And he says, we want you guys to handle your own courses. And I'm going, oh, boy. I said, well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. I don't think anybody's going to want to pay for this shit, right? And he said, no, I think you'll be surprised. And I was very surprised. So 2006, I think I did, 2007. Because 2005 and 6 was with Santa Cruz. And 2007, I went out on my own. I was a 1099 athlete through our coach, employee through CrossFit, and we did 5 seminars. 2008, I had my knee replaced. I retired from teaching, and I did 10 seminars. 2009, I did 40. 2010, I did. Well, after 2009. 2010, I had to become an S corporation because I couldn't do as many as we had scheduled. So I started hiring Josh Everett, Stefan Roche to help me, other athletes, other coaches that I trusted.
Sure.
And then I no longer was a 1099 employee. I was now as a Mike's Gym, became Mike's Gym CrossFit, and CrossFit sent me checks automatically deposited into, and then I went ahead and paid all my coaches in my businesses and stuff like that. And then, gosh, I think in 2013 we did 150 seminars
all
over the world.
Yeah.
And then an amazing thing happened because in USA Weightlifting's world, they didn't believe in CrossFit.
Sure.
They didn't believe in Isabel and Grace, so to speak. They did that 30 reps. They didn't believe that. But what they did believe in, and I was on the board of directors when all this took place. And we had 2,500, 3,000 members within weightlifting at the time. And all of a sudden they see the amount of money that, Mike's Gym is making, giving CrossFit weightlifting seminars and covering the fundamentals of teaching and, what's it take to be a great weightlifter. And I'm trying to teach teachers and coaches how to teach their clients, so to speak. And they're going back, Jesus, this guy's making a killing, And so I think we better change our tactics.
Sure.
So then they started becoming more open-minded to that. And
adapt or die, right?
And I think now they've got like 30,000 members.
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
wow.
It's up there. And, now, the American Open at one point in Dallas, I think they had 800 participants.
That's insane.
And we used to have beg, borrow, and steal to get 80.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
So the growth because of CrossFit. CrossFit has absolutely turned weightlifting around. And I think the guy that runs USA Weightlifting, Philip Andrews, I think he's an outstanding leader for weightlifting because he sees the benefit of what CrossFit can do for his organization, right?
Yeah.
And so now they're working together, I mean, Rogue is another great example. Katie and Bill Henniger started the same time I did. And these kids have, they just went after it and worked their butts off, There wasn't any handouts.
Right.
They worked their butts off and look at the dynasty that they've built right now. So
It's incredible to see. Like, you go to the regional events this past year, and Katie, who's Rogue, she was sitting there pulling the equipment off of the rigs at regionals after it's all done. So she's still putting in the time and hours outside of running a massive business. It's crazy.
I'll tell you what, Rogue has been so good to me. I mean, literally, when we had the fire damage to our house, Rogue stepped up and they just took care of me.
Yeah.
And, Bill and Katie have always been like that, and they're just two dadgum kids that met when she was in Ohio State, and I don't know the full story, but I think one of their dads, or Katie's dad or Bill's dad, was a welder, and they came together, and Bill, he can build anything, right?
Sure.
And so they just built that dynasty, and they've grown, and they're the most giving people of anybody I think in that organization I've ever met. So
well, as we continue to refine the the message of feed me, fuel me, one of the constants from one guest to the next, seems to be that abundance mentality and giving before receiving, and really applying that directly in as many facets of life as possible. And it's one of the true tenets of what makes somebody successful in any endeavor,
right.
Whether it's athletics, business, relationships, what have you. And which kind of brings me to what I want to dive into with you, and that's the humility that it took for you to write the letter to your 15-year-old self. And I want to preface that with, as you sit here with us today, at any point prior, did you think that this is where you'd be at this point in your life?
Absolutely not. I am so humbled by what I've been given the opportunity to share. As Marines, you become extremely motivated. I think it's in our blood anyway, that your passion for leadership, your passion to save your men, your passion to lead by examples, kind of thing that takes place. And then the humility of it is that, I've never expected anything. My dad and mom raised me that way. I was an absolute dickhead, so to speak, as a kid. And I didn't think my mom and dad knew anything at the time. And as I said in that letter, there's times you wish you could go back and say thank you.
Yeah.
For what they brought to the table. And my dad was extremely hardcore. He was and he didn't let me get away with anything. Thank God.
Sure. Yeah.
And he told me, he says, you need to be a coach and a teacher. And I'm going, are you kidding me? There's no freaking way I'm going to be a coach and a teacher. I said, I'm not going to deal with those kids
right.
like
yeah,
I
sure.
am, And so anyway, it was just that point in time too, of being in a leadership position in the Marine Corps and understanding the vulnerability of your troops and and how they look to you for the leadership, and then how you look to the staff NCOs for leadership,
right.
because you're
absolutely.
just, we talked about that yesterday, we're just a dumb and stupid second lieutenant that doesn't know anything, and then if you're smart, you'll have extreme ownership and let your men do their jobs, and then you just stand by and do all the leadership you can for them.
Right,
But I think that the humility, so to speak, was developed in my youth, but it wasn't recognized until I was much older.
Sure.
And now it's my wife and I pride ourselves that we have a gym. It's a 2-car garage. It's a very humble gym, and we have 4 platforms, and it's maybe 600 square foot with another 300 covered in the back that we just covered it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we've had 40 people training in that gym at the same time.
That's
and we don't, we've never charged anything for our services, because I never had to pay for services, so why in the hell would I want to charge? We're both school teachers. We made a living. Yeah, we had to pass a hat to get a cold beer, but I would rather have my kids up at my home. I know where they are, and have their friends at my house because I know where they are too, right? And my kids, because of that, that opportunity to have a gym in your home and have as many people there as you could, Olympians, training. I think it kind of paved the way for their development as well.
I'd agree with that. I sort of want to go back to, sort of the letter aspect, and you talked about, the last things you want to say things to your parents. And when's that reflection point come for you? Because I found as I'm getting older, and you start thinking when you're coming up, you want to be that hard ass, the big tough guy, play ball, don't care about anything. But as you start getting older and you see your parents start aging, and then there's things that you reflect on as you're sitting by yourself and I wish I would have been, more kind in that moment, would have said thank you, would have done this. When did that reflection point come for you?
Well, that's a great question, because when you're 22, 23 and you're a second lieutenant and you end up going to OCS and I'm going geez, Dad, I think I made a mistake. And it's like, because, I mean, it was like I'm hardcore, I'm hard charging. I get off that bus and I put my feet along those little yellow footprints, right? And and this drill instructor, gunnery sergeant, yanked me right by my ass and just put my head and butt wired together really quick. and that night we had to write a letter home, right? We wrote a letter home to Mom and Dad. And, you know, I think, dear Dad, I think I made a mistake. So, I mean, I think it started there, but it wasn't recognized until, you know, you go and you know, I got married later in life, and all of a sudden, you know, you have a couple kids, and you now take your kids home, and your dad's now 65 and even younger than I am now. And, you know, he's had a couple knee replacements, and he's frail. And here's a guy that used to paddle my behind with a leather belt, and I needed every one of them. And you're looking at, you know, I'm now becoming my dad, so to speak. And I've got to take care of him and my mom. And I live 2,000 miles away. But luckily I had two sisters that just stepped up to the plate.
Sure.
And, you know, so it's a good question, but I think the journey comes from when you're put into a harm's way type situation that you're not real comfortable with, and then all of a sudden you think, God, well, Mom and Dad weren't. They're pretty damn smart, aren't they? You know, and I think that throughout my lifetime, I think it's been that. God, Mom and Dad are really smart about that. You know, maybe I should follow in their footsteps. You know, maybe I should invest properly like they did, and instead of just going out and doing whatever. So I mean, the journey's continuous, and I'm still learning. You know, I mean, I'm 72, and you know, I am my dad is what I am. You know,
that's
and you know, I'm a real hard ass, and then all of a sudden I can start crying over anything. And I can remember my dad doing that, and it drove me nuts. But then all of a sudden, you know, somebody will bring up something, and all of a sudden I become choked up. And just the voice starts, you know, quivering. The eyes start watering a little bit, and I become very emotional. And I'm going, that used to drive me freaking crazy with my dad.
Do you feel like that acceptance of your vulnerability comes from, and I can remember an instance in my life where I was exposed to my own mortality for the first time. And I had to admit to myself as a young, hard-charging 20-something that I was not invincible. And in that moment, I think that you know, what I got from that was that it's probably better that I not leave things unsaid. And that if that's what I'm feeling, then I need to feel that as opposed to brushing it aside or not living in that moment for as long as I needed to. Do you feel like that's an honest assessment of where that kind of starts for a young man?
There was a time that when I was at the University of Kentucky, I ended up having an assignment that I was supposed to recruit an athlete, and this athlete probably lived 35 miles from my hometown where my mom and dad were. And I drove over to, you know, this town and recruited this athlete, you know, attended his game, and then I drove home. Not to my hometown, but back to the University of Kentucky. And it came out in the paper that, you know, Mike Burgener's recruiting John Doe back in this deal, and I didn't even call home. Didn't say, you know, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm here. And there's not a day goes by that I don't think, boy, you are such a dumbass. You know, that I should have, would have, and could have taken the opportunity to, you know, tell him how much I appreciate it. That's what, if you could go back, what would you say? Thank you. Thank you for everything that you did for me. Because, and you know, and I think it's just the rites of passage. I just think that happens almost with everybody. You know, you come into this world, you are young, dumb, and stupid until you become maybe a father yourself, and
Sure.
then all of a sudden you're thinking, Jesus, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then you grow up, and all of a sudden your kids are out of the house now, and your kid now may not come and visit you,
Yeah.
and you reflect back on, Jesus Christ, I did the same damn thing. Why am I pissed at him? Because I did exactly the same thing.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Life's a journey, and
Mhm.
and that's what I love about what CrossFit is all about, and Olympic style weightlifting. I am so humble about what I've been offered and what I've been given and what I have the opportunity to present. I mean, it's just an appreciation, and I want to play it forward. I tell my kids all the time, you got to play this stuff forward. Your life is, don't worry about anything.
Mhm.
And, there's nothing you can do about it anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to worry about whether the sun's coming out or if it's raining or the house is on fire, dude, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So live your life accordingly, play it forward, and try to help as many people as you can
Sure.
with the gifts that you have.
Yeah.
And my gift is only one thing. I can teach Olympic style weightlifting.
Mhm.
That's what I'm all about. I
Yeah.
mean, anything else, I don't know my ass from a hole in the ground. But I do know about that, and I will take credit for that. So I like to play that aspect forward.
What prompted you to write that letter?
Somebody, I think it was, God, I even forget who it was now. I think it was the Chalk Talk. The gal that, she asked me, she says, if you had to write a letter to your 15-year-old self, what would you say? And I said, shit, I don't know. God almighty. I mean, I know that I wish I could go back and turn around a lot of mistakes that I made, and wish I could tell my mom and dad how much I love them and appreciate them. My sisters in my family, I was the athlete, so my mom and dad followed me everywhere. My sisters took it in the shorts. They had to play second fiddle with me, and I've really tried hard to make amends for that. It's like I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not saying I'm religious, but I'm very, very spiritual, and I thank God every single day for the gifts that I've been given and the people with whom I've come in contact, and and it's, I don't know, I'm just blessed. So
it was really interesting as I was reading through that, because you've spent so much of your life caring for others. Your kids, your wife, every athlete that's come through Mike's gym. The hundreds, the thousands of athletes that you've influenced in the CrossFit and the weightlifting community, the high school kids that you've taught, and that's a very selfless endeavor. And I don't think that you acknowledge it for what it is when you're actively participating in that. And as you're writing that letter, there was a lot of self-acknowledgement that you and derived from introspection that probably wouldn't have come about had you not written that letter.
The one thing that I've said, and people always talk about, I give to this and I give to that, and I coach this guy and all this. You know what? I do, but you know who that's for? That's for me. The beauty of what I'm able to give is something that my dad talked to me about years and years ago, is that you take your gifts and, you share those gifts. And with me, the high school kids, I mean, the Marine Corps taught me how to lead basically, and how to have that command presence,
Right.
that deep guttural voice that is very succinct in exactly what you want and when you want it, and then the command presence of saying, "Is that clear?" I mean, we've all been there.
You're just taking me back to the day.
Oh,
man.
yeah. And honestly, if you took my weightlifting class, that's exactly what you get. I mean, and that's not, because that's my gift.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to go back, God, what almighty, I got out of the Marine Corps in 75. I got to go back 30, 40 years. And I can still call in air support. I can still call in, I guarantee you I could take a column of boot Marines and march them in a column of threes and give them, close order drill. And that's, to me, that's the style of leadership, and I was good at it.
Yeah, sure.
And so all I'm doing is taking my gift and giving it to these kids, because the information I'm going to give them is extremely important. And if I don't present to them in a certain way, then they're not going to, just like you and I did. I mean, when that gunnery sergeant was telling us to get our head and butts wired together, we were paying attention.
Right.
So I run my PE classes like that. I run my gym like that. And try to be, I'm not sir. I'm now Coach B. Sir was my dad. Mr. was my dad. I am Coach B, and that's what you'll address me as, is Coach B. But that leadership principle is what I was really good at, and so I think that is when I present, and even though people think, thank you, I see your passion. Man, that's for me. Mm-hmm. It really is something that I've been given, so I want to share that. Yeah. And it's just, I think it's a very good feeling, and it makes me feel good, but I'm very humbled to be able to do it at the same time.
What has been, as you look back on it all up to this point, what has been your crowning achievement?
Oh, my God, that's so easy for me. So here's the shithead, right, that's getting a little emotional because it's my son. Mm-hmm. I've got 3 sons, and I'm extremely proud of all 3 of them, but my son Casey was an Olympian in 2008, and Olympic-style weightlifter, and the journey that he had as a little boy, and God almighty, raising him up to this tall, skinny kid, and getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and making him drink peanut butter milkshakes so that he would gain weight. And then, he was in my PE classes, and so every hour, on the hour, you will eat a peanut butter and banana sandwich. And he'd go to class, and then after the first hour, he'd eat a sandwich, and I had spies all over the class, all over the school, watching to make sure he wouldn't take these peanut butter sandwiches and throw them away. And it's the only way he could gain weight.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it was a journey before the 2 of us, and it was, I'll never forget that. And it's like, oh my God, here's this kid, and I think about it now, so they should have thrown my ass in jail for child abuse. But, this journey that we had, and then all the way up to, making that Olympic team. And, it was that, to me, because he's my family, it's been the greatest journey. And then, then my son Bo was a Navy SEAL, and watching him go through buds and doing that kind of stuff. And then my son Cody's a firefighter in Prince William County, and then watching him do the things that he does. And then I have these 3 buff, strong kids. And then I have this little girl that's got my heart, and she's so much like me, it's unbelievable. So I have these 3 boys that they're not going to bull the neck and bubble the snot, and they're not going to talk with that guttural thing. But my little girl, who's the youngest, she's hardcore. She's harder than I am. I'm going, dude, you should have been a Marine drill instructor. And she's very feminine, and yet she's not afraid to, get in she's got a super heavyweight right now that weighs about 142 kilos, and this kid's 20 years old, and she will bring him to his knees, and, just give him shit that, because she's a leader. She's watched me do this for so many years, and she's just pulled up the slack, man.
Yeah.
And she's, so, the crowning moments of my life has been, my kids, and and the support of my wife, and being able to, see where my vulnerability is, and and knowing that the kids need a dad, they need him to be home, and then going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, come home at 7 o'clock at night isn't going to work. And so her knowing and being smart enough to say, well, okay, let's build a gym in the garage. And then, so I'd go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I'd come home at 3:34 in the afternoon, and all the kids at school will follow me home. So it's like the Pied Piper coming home and, and working out at Coach B's garage, and So yeah, I would say that's that's a great question, but it's very easy for me to answer because it deals with my own 4 children.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Is that by design, like that they followed your life path? You have, 2 kids that pursued athletics, made the Olympic team. One that is a coach now. The military route, the firefighter, the community service involved in all of that. Did you push them down that path, or did you kind of let them find it for themselves and you just endorsed it as they made those decisions?
Yeah, my wife and I have been very, very strong in the belief that they have to forge their own path.
Mm-hmm.
I like public service.
Sure.
It's something that is important for me, and
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to show that through leadership. I think school teaching and being a school teacher, is part of the public service route. But in our world, in the gym of weightlifting, I could have very easily made all my children, do the Olympic lifts. And in retrospect, I probably did make them do the Olympic lifts, but I never forced them to compete.
Sure.
But every one of them, chose sports. And the big thing for us is that they were going to be kept busy, and they did have to participate in sports. I didn't care what the sports were. I was a football player. Not one of my kids played football.
Okay.
Casey played football 1 year, his freshman year, and he hated it.
Right.
So he says, "Dad, I want to be a weightlifter."
Yeah.
And that's when the 2:00 feedings took place, and then Bo wanted nothing to do with football, but he wanted to choose sports that I didn't know anything about.
Sure.
He didn't like baseball because I knew about baseball. He didn't want football because I knew about football. Basketball, it wasn't in his cards. So he chose volleyball, water polo, because I didn't know shit about those sports. And so I wasn't going to get in his space. He's really a private kid.
Yeah.
Cody chose baseball. He didn't play. He played football 1 year, didn't like it. But he chose baseball, and he was a hell of a baseball player. Played college baseball. And then Sage, like her daddy, right? She chose weightlifting. She did all these other sports, but they didn't have to choose a sport, weightlifting, until they were a junior in high school. And if they were a junior in high school and they wanted weightlifting, then they came over to my school, which is Rancho Buena Vista High School.
Okay.
And then Bo and Cody stayed at Fallbrook High School, which was the district, because their sports were other sports, and all they had to do was they had to train in Olympic-style weightlifting to help prevent injury and to enhance performance.
Sure.
But as far as competing, they didn't have to compete. They all competed. Every one of them was a national champion, a school-age national champion or a junior national champion. And as far as I know, we're the only family in weightlifting that had 4 siblings at a national championships at one time.
That's cool.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So Charleston, Illinois. And what's really fun about it is that was the last time my mother got to see all the grandkids together.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
And compete. You
Yeah.
know? So it's really a surreal moment. So, family's extremely important to me, but at the same time we wanted them to, go their own path.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't tell Bo to become a Navy SEAL. I didn't tell Casey to join the Navy and become a nuclear submarine officer. And I didn't tell Cody to be a firefighter. Those are all paths that he's chosen.
Yeah,
And Sage is an Olympic weightlifting coach. She's got a great team called Sage's Tribe, and she's one hell of a coach, And so now I'm her assistant.
Okay.
So I get to count attempts while she gets to organize everything.
That's cool.
So.
What are some lessons as you've developed into as a parent of an individual what lessons have your kids taught you that you already didn't know about yourself? Like, what have they uncovered?
God, I hate to say this online. You may make fun of me. I think my sensitivity.
Okay.
I think back in the day, you will not cry. Today, as we talked about a little bit earlier, if any of your kids go through a hard time, you relive that with them. And and then it's really hard for you not to enable them. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's you want to do everything for them, but you know that that's not the path of righteousness, so to speak,
right,
and it's not going to teach them anything. So you have your own ways. I mean, I go through my life and I think, okay, well, this one really needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
And how can I help them without enabling them?
Right.
So, I say, okay, hey, how would you like to make $1,000? Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to unload the gym. I want you to take all the equipment out of the gym. I want you to wipe down the walls. I want you to repaint the walls, and I want you to redecorate the gym. And for that, I'll give you $1,000. So they're industrious, so they go out and they get their friends to help them. They're not going to pay them anything, but so the point is that I'm trying to make is that I think a parent is responsible for the growth and development of your kids.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to give them the world, it's really not in their best interest for you to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing that I've had to come to grips with, is to know that, okay, look, you got to really be a semi hard ass here, but at the same time, your sensitivity is going to allow them to be able to work for you, so that you don't give them, but you're giving them opportunities,
right?
That they can make a living. Because at my age, I don't give a shit. What do I have? I mean, I don't want for anything. I mean, it's for me. I just try to get rid of half the stuff I got anyway. Right? So I think sensitivity is a big thing that my kids have brought out in me. That I try not to admit that too much. Because they still think I'm a hard ass, but. When my kids go through stuff, my wife sees my vulnerability. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, there's times in my kids' development and the hard times that they've gone through that I'm telling you, I have deep sobs coming from my gut. and I think that's helped me grow a little bit more, I think, whereas when I was 30 years old, I wouldn't happen. It just would not happen. Where, as you get older and you raise your family and you're brought into their injuries and their hurts and their boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, and then the experiences they have in life that just brings you to your freaking knees.
Yeah.
And you got to be strong in front of them. But when your partner and you are together, and my wife is so tough, and I'm the biggest pussy that ever lived. Because it's that time that I can be vulnerable, but I can really let that emotion out.
Yeah.
And there again, that time period as you grow older, you're not afraid to show that emotion. I'm not afraid to show it now, but I got to be in the right company,
Sure.
So.
Were there instances as an officer of Marines where there was value to the expression of your vulnerability for your men?
Yeah, the thing about, I guess for me, it's a simple thing is when you go to the mess hall and the chow hall, who goes first? You, or does your men go first?
Junior enlisted.
They always go first, and so, I mean, that's what the Marine Corps taught me. It's you become selfless. Who are you? I'm nothing.
Leaders eat last.
That's exactly it. You take care of your freaking men.
Right.
And when you do that, they'll take care of you.
Right.
And and for me, I've always said that the best teachers I ever had were my staff NCOs. These are the guys that taught me. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I've had guys that were just fire breathers in the Marine Corps that I had to reduce down to rank, to PFCs.
Right.
And these guys were very gifted. But if I didn't do that,
right,
then I would have been enabling them.
Sure.
And then, they'd come back up in rank again, and I'm just absolutely convinced they love being an E1. They love to be that private, because they'd do some dumbass thing again, and you just have to. But, my staff, because I think all second lieutenants want to be liked.
Sure.
Right? And it takes that staff NCO to no, Lieutenant, you've got a job to do, and you've got to protect these guys. And if you don't protect them, if they don't follow you, if you don't kick their butts, if you don't make sure that they respect what you do, and you love them to death, and you let them, you give them everything you can, you put them first, but then when they're wrong, you have to come down on them hard. You got to let them know that you're in charge.
Yeah.
So, I just think it's a very important part of life. So.
Yeah. How do you? Because I would imagine that. When you're on that platform all by yourself, working through an Olympic lifting meet, that's such a cerebral process. It's easy to jump into your athletes' successes and enjoy that with them. How is it for you as a coach when they put all that work in and it's not like a football game where there's multiple points where the game could turn, but when it's just you and you have 3 attempts and you bomb out and that you put everything into that moment, how do you help an athlete through that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It really is, because they're devastated.
Yeah.
And I think, I guess the easy answer is that, tomorrow's another day, right? And we've got to pick ourselves up and, grieve this little bit of time, be upset with yourself, but we're going to take our heads, we're going to hold them high, and by God, the journey's next week is going to be different. We need to get right back on the wagon again. And, the hardest part on any of this stuff is getting into the athlete's head.
Sure.
And every athlete is different. There's athletes right now. I had this one athlete that I swear to God, she made me drink. I drank Jack and Coke only because I had to get through it. The training session, and if she's ever listens to this, she knows exactly who in the hell I'm talking about, And then today she's like my adopted daughter,
Wow.
She's but you as a coach, the trust that you develop and bring to the table, because in reality, it's not anything about you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not you. It's about them. That's the athlete. She's the one that's performing. And you've got to do everything you can to make sure that athlete's successful.
Right.
And there's going to be some of those athletes that need a swift kick in the ass, and there's the other athletes that if you did that to them, it would break them.
Right.
So you have got to be able to know your athlete. It's just like every workout program is different. I write a program for you, it's going to be different than a program for Michael. It's got to be different. If I give you the same programs, then I'm going to expect the same thing. But your differences, your needs are going to be different than his, and so your program's got to be different than his type of program. Yeah. And every athlete's mentality, you got some guys that are going to go out there and they're going to bust their ass, and they're going to they lift better. My son was one of these guys. I never knew what the hell he was going to do on game day, except I knew he was going to be better.
Okay.
And I gave an experience one time where we were at this meet, and I'm very conservative coaching, and I said, okay, you're going to start with 150 in the snatch. He comes out, and he misses 150 in the snatch. And my rule is, you got to get one in, dude. And he says, Dad, I can make this lift. And I said, son, you're not going to take any more than this lift because you missed your opportunity. He says, if I make 150 in the back room, can I go out here and take 160? I said, you got to be freaking nuts. I said, yeah, go back in the back room, because I was convinced that he would miss it.
Sure.
So he went back in the back room and he made it. And he gets called to the platform with 160 within 2 minutes, and he goes out there and nails it.
Wow.
Freaking nails it. And so there was that time where the athlete and you come together.
Right.
It was like, okay, I'm stubborn. You're not going to do this. And yet he challenged me to let him do it, but the caveat was he had to do it in the back. And I'm going, yeah, okay, I'll teach you a good lesson.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he blew it away in the back and blew it away on the platform. So at that point, you have a trust.
Right.
The trust between the athlete, and even though it's my son, the trust between the athlete and the coach. I learned to trust my athlete, and when my athlete told me something, I trusted it.
Okay.
He trusted me to listen to him as well. So we bonded.
Right.
And so that's what you really try to develop with that coach and that athlete relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about you as a coach.
Yeah.
It's about the athlete. You've got to do everything in your power to build that athlete.
Sure.
And then when that athlete goes out and wins a gold medal, you get the hell out of the way. You just stay back here in the back. You're behind the screen, and you don't want anybody to know, or they know anyway, but you don't want to call attention to yourself, because that the love and that journey is the athlete's journey.
Sure.
So,
What's that vetting process look like for somebody who wants to get your guidance and coaching? Like, if somebody walks in off the street, do you vet them and say, like, you're worthy to, like, it's not worthy, but, like, you're going to be accepted into my coaching program, or, like, you just don't meet the cut?
no, that's a great question, because for me, I don't think I vet anybody.
Okay.
It's like if they have a desire, like right now, I mean, anybody on a Wednesday can come to my house and get help in the Olympic lifts. I don't know anything about CrossFit. What do I know about CrossFit?
Mm-hmm.
I have a gym that's called the CrossFit Gym, but, programming, come on, I don't know. Sage knows programming. What I do know is about Olympic-style weightlifting. So if somebody comes in and they want help in the Olympic lifts, then I will, I'll help them. We give free programming on our website.
Mm-hmm.
Sage writes this program out, and there it is right there. We do Instagram Lives. Sage has got YouTube articles and stuff like that. I used to do the same thing. So anybody that needs help, that wants it, then they're there. I fired one athlete in my life, and the guy was a jerk.
Sure.
He used bad language around my kids. He was in my gym. We gave him everything, we gave him a place to train. We fed him periodically. But this kid was, he just wasn't a very good person in our family. So
Sure.
I fired him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only athlete I've ever fired in my life.
Yeah.
I think athletes are appreciative of what they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a free place to train.
Sure.
I've been blessed by getting people give me protein products and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I give it all to I don't even take this stuff. But I give it to my athletes.
Right.
So they have a pretty good gig going, and I think they appreciate it. So
Mm-hmm.
if this person is good person, then they can come and train at my gym.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's not it doesn't. I don't even care. I could care less if they're a good athlete.
Sure.
They just want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if they're a weightlifter or they're a volleyball player, but they need some help in explosive development. And so we'll let them. We let them come in.
I love
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
When it comes to the character of your athletes and people that spend a considerable amount of your time at Mike's gym, at what point in somebody's development they come to you and maybe it's just a tips and pointers kind of interaction, and you, with that coach's eye that you developed over the year, discover that there's actually something there, right? Do you push for them to pursue it, or like how do you help them acknowledge that? Like maybe CrossFit isn't your thing. Maybe you should commit to this barbell.
Right.
Like
Right.
when you see that and
Yeah.
they don't, like how does that conversation go?
Yeah. Well, it goes you're built for this sport, right? I mean, you're 5'0" and you're probably 140 pounds, and you know what? This is your sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really want to do Murph? Are you freaking crazy? But I think you ought to go to a weightlifting contest.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's one coming up. The California Games is coming up in a month. Why don't we take out the challenge and see what it's all about?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't force them. I
Sure.
mean, I taught high school, and in my high school journey, I had Mexican Americans, I have had Asians, and I'd go out and actively recruit the short bodies because they had great flexibilities. And I had some great Mexican men, kids that could have been wonderful weightlifters. They didn't want to wear a singlet.
Mm.
They'd come to my gym, and they would train hard. And I had kids that could set national records. They didn't want to wear a singlet, and they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But we still coached them. They were in my
sure.
PE classes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I think it's my job to try to make people understand that, I love this sport.
Yeah.
And I want you to love it too.
Sure.
And if they they choose not to compete, that's okay.
Okay.
They come to my gym and we, they just like, Coach, I don't think I really want to compete. I just want to do these lifts because it's challenging and I like them and it keeps me in shape.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
if my goal is to get everybody I come in contact to be able to snatch body weight and be able to clean and jerk 1.25 times body weight.
Okay.
And if I can get them to that level, then I know I can take them past that level. And when they start getting to that level, I really start pushing them to, let's think about going to a weightlifting contest.
Right.
And with Sage's team, she's got the Sage Tribe team. I mean, it's just all the other people. She doesn't even have to talk about them. So all the other people will make them kind of move over. Are you going to go to the meet on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're not lifting, but they're going to go to the meet and cheer.
Right.
And then all of a sudden going, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Sure.
And so they all of a sudden do it. But there's no pressure, but there's pressure.
Right. Okay.
I understand
For
that.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's organic.
It is. And it's once they go to their first meet,
Mm-hmm.
cha-ching, I got them.
Got him.
Right.
I got it. Getting them to the first meet. And what the beauty of what USA Weightlifting did, too, was if I can get them to the first meet and they can wear normal clothes, normal PE clothes without the singlet,
Yeah.
then, okay, I guess I could probably wear the singlet because they see everybody else, all the other 50 competitors, wearing the singlet.
Right.
Now, the girls, they don't give a shit. They like to wear the singlet because it's like a bathing suit for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Got nice legs. They want to show off their legs, and they don't have any problems at all. It's the guys that have the issue with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of
Interesting.
stuff. Yeah, it really is. So, but once they can get there and they see all these kids wearing the wrestling singlet,
Right.
well, yeah, geez, I guess I could do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then they buy into it
Mhm.
typically. I haven't lost a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, you just kind of see the potential. And even if the kid's not any good, get him to lift. And then hopefully he'll love the sport.
Right.
And they'll all get better doing
Mhm.
it. It's just a matter of continue with your journey. And
Sure.
if they start out snatching a barbell, then they can probably snatch the barbell with 5 kilos on each side of it sometime,
Mhm.
So they will get, with progressive overload, they'll be able to get it.
I love that.
So,
Where you
yeah.
currently are in your life, how would you define your life purpose right now?
My life purpose is life coaching.
Okay.
And for me, coaching is, coaching weightlifting is an art, but the art of this coaching weightlifting is life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Being tuned into a discipline,
Yeah.
being tuned into teamwork, being in tune to, this isn't about me necessarily. Maybe on the platform it's about me, but knowing that it's really important for my team that I make this lift.
Yeah.
So it's becoming, understanding that self is important, obviously, but the team really is important.
Mhm.
So, and I think when you go through raising a family, how important is the team of the family?
Right.
The family team is extremely important.
Right.
Sure.
And if you have one person that goes outside that family, it can destroy the whole family.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's where I'd like to think about it.
And is that, and sort of like a follow-on, is how long have you been living in that purpose, or is it something, has that been from the beginning, or is it over the past 10, 20 years?
I think the moment that I learned to be a good husband, a good father, was when I learned to say, yes, dear. Because I will tell you this, women are so much stronger mentally
Mm-hmm.
than men are. My wife, there's a reason why I call my wife Boss Hoss. Now, I mean, I'm coming out of the Marine Corps, and I'm a hard ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't shit. But the boss knew, but I fought. And then that moment that I realized that this team was going to be held together by her.
Yeah.
And that it's just internal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, I've got 4 wonderful grandkids, and I love them dearly. But I got them for 2 hours, man. I'm toast. I want the hell out of here. But she's 24/7.
Yeah.
nonstop.
You know, and she's. I mean, we were. The fire in Southern California affected us, and this woman's on a freaking mission. You know, and she wants that house rebuilt, and she wants. And I said, look, you deal with the contractors. She's one tough cookie.
Sure.
And I think in our 42 years of marriage, we hardly ever fight, never, and we never fight about money. It's all hers anyway, right? I mean, so we don't. And I just get that, you know, but I think, you know, she can work all day in the yard and get her hands dirt, you know, and she's got a vision and she goes after it. Where, you know, I'm one dimensional. I mean, I got my weightlifting that's all I care about,
right.
You know, but you know, I think the point is that when I realized that team person, you know, that the commander in chief's really in charge.
Sure.
So when you listen, okay, just let it go, man. Just you go out and let her do her thing, and you'll be better off for it.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's your method for helping the young hard chargers who are 100% from the outside looking in? It's obvious to everybody else but them that they are their own worst enemy, standing in their own way. How do you get them to achieve that next level of enlightenment where it's not about the goal, it's falling in love with the process, you know? Because so often in life, you know, you commission as an officer, you get your scholarship to Notre Dame, you know, it like those events that are milestones in your life, but once they're achieved, it's very anticlimactic. The credits don't roll, the music doesn't play, the sun comes up tomorrow, you know, and at some point that happens enough that you realize that, oh, all the shit that I did to get here is what made it worth the while.
Yeah.
Not the actual achievement of that thing.
Yeah.
You know, is that part of your coaching process to get them to come full circle with that concept?
Yeah. I think so. And my journey has been very blessed, obviously, because of the people with whom I've been brought in contact with. My coach in high school was a guy that was very fundamentally oriented. You know, drills and skills was the name of his game. You know, and it was his favorite word. And I laugh now because Nick Saban talks about it all the time. It's like trust the process. And trust the process. You know, boot camp. Trust the process. You know, you're here today and you're nothing but a piece of horse meat, but you know, 10 weeks, 12 weeks from now, trust the process. All of a sudden you become a Marine. And, you know, I think that's the hardest thing. I think dealing with young kids or even young athletes, everybody wants it tomorrow. I want this tomorrow. I want to be able to snatch 300 tomorrow. And, you know, it's up to you to get them to understand there is a process here. And we're going to do the process. That's why it took 18 weeks for my kids to ever snatch in my PE class. I worked drills and skills and fundamentals 18 weeks before anybody snatched. And that's where I teach my classes. They get me for 2 days, right? They get me for 2 daggum days, and we don't snatch the first day.
Right.
And then right after snatches, we get into the clean and jerk because the clean and jerk is easy. And you have to milk the snatches, and it's hard to teach, but you got to win with the clean and jerk.
Oh, sure.
So it's a process. It's trusting the process. And you work 1 day at a time, 1 second at a time. You know, and it's like I've gone in my journey. I've gone through Al-Anon. I don't know if you know what Al-Anon. It's family and friends of drug addicts and alcoholics.
Sure.
You know, that's that type of thing. And one of the feats in my journey, you know, I went into this thing and first meeting I ever went to was like, oh my God, talk about a humbling, you know, sucking in, gut-wrenching meeting. And after the meeting, you know, I had these 2 old ladies. One was 75 and the other one was 80, and they grabbed me right by my ear and just pulled me into this corner. And it was like they taught me because I was so vulnerable at this time in my life. And they taught me, dude, I want you to repeat after me. 1 second. He's sober. 2 seconds. God, he's been sober 2 seconds. 3 seconds. and then all of a sudden you build up to 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
1 day, 1 second. And that's the way you talk to yourself. It's 1 day at a time. It's the process of acknowledging, I can't cause it, I can't control it, I can't cure it. It's, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can change, and the ability to know the difference when I should change them. It's basically that serenity prayer. It's a whole process, and you have to understand that the process is there, and you can only take it 1 day at a time. And I have this thing that. Did you guys ever see Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. No.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time for me. And I just saw it about, I don't know, 6 months ago or whatever. And in this movie, the spy is this guy that's an artist. He's very cerebral, and he's doing this thing, and he's the artist, and he's the spy. He's the guy that they're going to put to death. And Tom Hanks is I think he's an insurance attorney, and he gets, they ask him to represent this guy for a criminal defense. And Hanks is beside himself with this guy because he just shows no emotion. And Hank says, "Aren't you afraid of dying?" And the guy says, "Will it help?" That to me was a turning point in my life, because all the shit you worry about, when you really think about it, how much control do you have over it?
Right.
Wow.
You don't. And why worry about it?
Right.
Will it help? OMG. It's not going to freaking help, so just let it go, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, and to me, that was heavy. And I wish I would have had that 15, 20 years ago, because, you worry about all kinds of stuff. Is my kid going to be okay? Is he's, I mean, it's just shit you can't control.
Right.
So you have to trust the process. And I learned that from my head football coach in high school. I learned it from Ara Parseghian. I learned it from Vince Lombardi. I'm still learning it from Saban, because I study Saban and the way that he coaches, and the attention to detail, and that whole thing.
Those are all the things. My brother played for Saban.
Oh my God!
And those are all the things that he describes above and beyond him being, the overuse of the word motherfucker. His attention to detail, his ability to hold the standard, as has been the theme the last couple of days. Nobody's above it.
Nobody. And I tell you what, he holds his staff accountable.
Sure.
And if you can't uphold that standard, then he'll get rid of you.
Sure.
And you know how important the strength program and conditioning program is for that man?
Oh yeah. He's got the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in the nation.
Unbelievable. And that guy is the dude.
Oh, he's a pit bull.
He is a pit bull. And I'm thinking he was a Marine, but I'm not sure if he was or not. But
I want to say he was Army.
Okay. Well, aren't really Marines yet. It's the same thing, right? That's what Army stands for. And, the Army guy's going to come back and he says, okay, well, what's Marine stand for? Muscles aren't, required, and intelligence.
Muscles are required.
Muscles are required. Intelligence, not essential. And that's what they tell me, and I'm going, okay, I get it. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I'll take
right.
that.
I'll take that. I can understand that. That's why they say attack the middle. What's flanking? What's covering the fire? I mean, Jesus. Oh God. Yeah.
Oh no, that's the parallels of your life, from athlete to Marine to father and coach. The way that leadership manifests in those completely different lanes of your life, but yet the principles seem to be the same.
Yeah.
Do you? It seems like that's the theme that I'm getting as you tell your stories, that you live a very principle-based life, and in doing that, you're able to adapt, shift, and pivot accordingly based on the situations that you're presented with, because the fundamentals, right, can be applied,
right,
differently given the situation.
Right. Everybody's different. And, every gift that I've ever been given has been given to me by somebody else. The leadership of my head football coach in high school. You think about this for a second. I can tell you right now, almost to a T, what that man did. I watched him. I studied him. I mean, it wasn't, I'm going to study Clay DeMonte. Mm-hmm. It was like I just sat back and just watched him. The guy was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I watched Eric Parsegian. I watched him in my dorm room at Notre Dame at 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night, that he and his staff was still working, developing the game plan for the next opponent. Mm-hmm. I watched Casey Roberts. My son, Casey Burgener, is named after Casey Roberts, who was my first officer in the Marine Corps. Cody Jackson, Stormy Burgener. Stormy Sexton was 5 Silver Stars in World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And I had the opportunity to be led by him.
Wow.
And so in my journey, it's like, if you'll sit back and keep your mouth shut and watch and understand that God gave you 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, right? And you can absorb all of this. Even though when you don't even know you're absorbing it, it's being absorbed. It's gonna kind of permeate with you, and if you're smart, you'll use those lessons that you've learned from others and the process, trusting the process that you learned for others, to kind of play your path forward for the people that you're going to come in contact.
Love it.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
So, as much as we would love to sit here and just milk
this has been fantastic.
your wisdom, we know that you're on a schedule this weekend and you got other things to do. So I want to kind of tie this up with 2 questions about how you live your life on the daily. And you can answer them on any level: mental, physical, spiritual, what have you. The first of which is, what do you do each and every day to feed yourself and create the momentum with which you live? And the follow-on to that is, what do you do each and every day to fuel yourself and make sure that momentum is sustainable over the course of your life? Yeah,
that's good, because I'm a creature of habit. My alarm goes off at 05:30 every single morning, whether I want it to or not. I get up in the morning and I do my bathroom duties and stuff like that, and then I go down and I weigh myself every single morning. And then I usually come in and make my bulletproof coffee. And then I have a journal that I write into. I journal every single day. And I talk about what I want to try to get achieved through the day, or what my thoughts are for yesterday. I meditate, so to speak, not sitting there going, but I meditate in thinking and appreciating, what I've been given, and the people that I want to make a difference, with. And all of a sudden it becomes 07:30 or 07:45, and the geezer starts showing up at my house. And, the first guy comes up to the driveway and in the garage, and we start giving each other shit right off the bat, because that's what men do. And it's, and I've got an 83-year-old geezer, and I've got a 74-year-old geezer, and 5 or 6 72-year-old geezers, which is what I am. And then our youngest is 60. And we just banter back and forth, but the workout of the day has been put on the board, been explained, and we fulfill that. And then after that workout is over with, we sit around and we're all retired, so we just kind of talk about what's happening and what's the best bourbon that they've had lately, and and just the kids typically, and God, I don't want to say this too loud, but if there's any wife bashing going on, can you believe she did that shit? It's like, that's when we kind of have our little secret together meetings, right? And of course, the wives never hear this kind of stuff, and we laugh, and it's like my wife and I, or the geezers and I, talk about, McFadden, you're the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. You're gaining weight. You're too fat, and it's none of it's true, right?
Oh, sure.
But it's just kind of the way men banter back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
But on the other side, my wife has a group that's called the Mambas, Mothers Against Making Bingo Arms, right? and she's got her little group, and they're going, oh, you go, girl. You look so good. And that girl may be 50 pounds overweight, but you look good today, honey. You know, and they're saying shit that they don't believe is true either, you know. So we have our moments with our friends now as you get older, and the kids are all gone.
Yeah.
It becomes very important that you stay in contact with your brothers and sisters, right?
Sure.
And I tell them, if you're going to miss a workout, I get it. But if you miss 2 or 3 workouts, you better call my ass, because I'm worried about your health, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
because we know everybody's vulnerabilities at this point.
Yeah.
We know who's on high blood pressure medication, who's got diabetes, and who's having an issue, and we know all that stuff. So, you know, we kind of feel like you took the family, you raised them, but now we still have that family, but they've all got their own families to worry about. So our family now becomes our generation. So I do that, you know, hard. And spirituality is a very important thing to me, and I don't do it all the time, but you know, typically on a Tuesday and a Thursday, I'll go to mass at 07:30, and then go to the beach and walk and kind of spiritually get my head wired together, and you know, thank God for the things that I've been given, and blessed with the things that I have, and just understand that, you know, tomorrow's promised to nobody, and I want to be able to look back and say, you know what, man, you are one lucky dude, and I am, you know, and you know, as I said, you know, I just wish I could say to my mom and dad right now that, I mean, you guys did a good job, and thank you for everything that, you know, that you've given me, you know, and my sisters feel the same way. We all feel that our parents did the best that they could, and they were the Depression family, the Depression mom and dad. So, you know, it was hard for them.
Sure.
And they did a really good job for us.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. And thank you for your time, first off.
Yeah.
Where can everybody in this community go support you and everything you have going, your family, just anything professional and personal?
Well, I tell everybody, you know, there's kind of a joke about it. It's my wife's the yard Nazi, right? She wants me working in the yard, and I hate that shit. I'm telling you right now. So
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Oh yeah, no kidding. You know, the only reprieve.
Nicole, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I know my boss. I don't. She may be listening or not, but and I tell everybody, I give them out my Mike Burgener at mac.com is my email address. My phone number is 760-535-1835. You can text me. You can call me. You can ask me any questions. Don't ask me about my life. Just ask me about help that you need. You know, don't ask me about Al-Anon. Don't ask me about, you know, that. But ask me, hey, Coach, you know, I'm having trouble with this. Can I send you some videos? And, you know, people are very friendly and very nice about it because they don't want to bother you. But I'm telling you, man, you're keeping me out of yard work. If you send me videos, man, I'm telling you, I can watch them, and then I don't have to go out and work in the yard. You know? So and for me, it's a challenge of being able to take somebody, break down their movement pattern, and watch that, and then screenshot it, and then send it back to them and say, okay, what do you see? And then, because I don't want to give it to him, but I want to say, what do you see here? And almost probably 75% of the time they're able to, I said, Jesus Christ, I'm really up on my toes. I never saw that before. But they never break down the sequence before either. Now what? How can I correct that? Because now that's the challenge. Can you identify it? Yes, I can. Okay, how do we correct it? Well, here's the drills, dude. And then, you know, send me a video in another week of their practice, and let me see what's happening. And so that's fun for me. Yeah. I mean, I've worked with Olympians. You know how hard it is to work with an Olympian? Oh, good job, dude. You know? Come on, really? Yeah. I mean, okay, what should I do? Lift more weight. His technique is perfect, right?
Sure.
What do I have to do? Squat more. You know, I mean, that's easy. Anybody can do that. But to take a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that can't chew gum and walk at the same time and make them, right, efficient in the lifts, that's what drills and skills and trust the process is all about. So YouTube, I've got YouTube. Sage has got our stuff, down,
Mm-hmm.
CrossFitWeightlifting.com, all that stuff is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's there for you, and we make ourselves available. It keeps my ass out of trouble.
There you go.
I love it.
Well, hey, we really appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time, Coach, and really sharing all that with us and our audience, and the value that you've brought to the table today has just been extremely awesome. For everybody out there in Feed Me, Fuel Me land, if you have any interest in touching a barbell, you now have a resource, and he's open.
Yeah.
So, take advantage of that and, get the help that you need if you don't have access to it already. And we really appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Being open, and thank you for taking the time impromptu to be here with us this weekend.
Thanks so much.
So, until next time, guys, feed me, fuel me.